So it's a beautiful morning in the Lake District, and I thought I'd take this opportunity to come out on the fells to talk about something that's influenced our roasting over the past 10 years. And it's actually the water that we use to brew the coffee and its relationship with the rocks that form the mountains underneath my feet. I'm no scientist, I'm no chemist. There are plenty of people out there who know more about the actual chemistry of water than I do. But I have to live and work with water day in, day out as we taste the coffees that we roast. So over the years, probably about 8 to 10 years now, we've been looking at practical solutions to some of the issues we find with water. Now before we go on, I'm going to try and explain where I am. If you don't know this region at all, below me in the valley is Thirlmere Reservoir. It's quite an important reservoir. Heading out south, which is to my left, you're going to have that water down there is going towards Manchester. Historically, Thirlmere Reservoir has fed the city of Manchester. And now, heading north at the same reservoir, it's being piped around the hills to my right onto the west coast of Cumbria. It's quite an important water source. Our roastery, for those who kind of are interested in this, if you see right at the head of the valley, our roastery is located right at the foot of that mountain. So the water that we see in the reservoir down there is very typical of the water that's consumed by many thousands of households. Ironically, even though it's so close to our roastery, it isn't actually where we get our water from. Our water comes from way the other side of the fells to my left. The lay of the land prevents this water from easily getting to our building. Now, despite how the weather is today, we get a lot of rain in the Lake District. And when those rain droplets form in the atmosphere, they're going to dissolve carbon dioxide, making those water droplets slightly acidic. And when they hit the ground, they're kind of predisposed to be able to dissolve more minerals into the water. And in some parts of the country, that's pretty obvious. If you head to the southeast of the UK, where you've got those soft, chalky rocks, that rainwater is going to work its way, it's going to dissolve the minerals in those rocks, and you're going to end up with lots of mineral content in the water. And we know that water around London is really hard, it forms scale, and it needs filtering. It's different up here. When the water lands on the fell sides around me, it's hitting very, very hard rocks. It can't permeate through, all it can do is run down broadly on the surface. It's going to go down to these little valleys, it's going to form streams, those streams will form rivers, and eventually it's going to end its way down in lakes and in reservoirs to feed our water supply. It's not going to be able to dissolve many minerals at all. Now the picture isn't even as simple as that, because within our region alone there is huge variation. Down the east part of our region there is some softer rocks, so Carlisle, Penrith, Kendal, down to the south around Ulverston, you're going to get much harder water, and here right slap bang in the middle of the lakes we're going to get much softer water. And that has a particular influence on how our coffee is going to taste. Now to talk a little bit more about this, I'm going to head on down into the valley to my right. There's a little stream down there, and we'll talk a little bit about why the water in that stream has such an influence on our cup of coffee. So I've grabbed a cup of water from the stream you see behind me, and I'm going to do something I've never done before. I'm actually going to test the water using this TDS meter. Now it's just kind of a ballpark test. It's not going to tell me what's in this water, but it's going to give me kind of a feel of the mineral content in here. Now I know that balanced water for coffee has a TDS of 150 parts per million. So it's going to be really interesting to see how close this is to that figure. Now even I'm surprised by this. I've hit a TDS of just four parts per million. So this is really soft water, probably as close to pure water as I've seen. So what is it in this water that's playing such an important role when it comes to brewing and tasting coffee? There are two things we're looking for. We're looking for the amount of calcium and magnesium in here, and we're looking for how much alkalinity this water's got. So bear in mind I said before, I am no scientist. This is kind of my simple interpretation of the role of these two things. Now, calcium and magnesium, they're the flavour carrying minerals. Without them, it's going to be very difficult to pick out those lovely complex flavours in a coffee that we all get so excited about. And with a TDS of 4 drifting towards 5 now, there's going to be very, very little calcium and magnesium in here. It's going to make it really difficult to unpick flavour in the cup. Now, alkalinity works as a buffer. There's a lot of acidity in coffee, and during the brewing process, the alkalinity kind of manages that acidity and makes sure it kind of doesn't get carried away and doesn't become too much in the cup. Yes, coffee should be acidic, but often the lack of alkalinity in water means coffees sometimes can go quite sour and tart. Hard water has those in abundance, and kind of the opposite is true. The coffee becomes heavy, chalky, and it's a completely different coffee tasting experience to what you'd get if you drank the coffee using this soft water. So I followed the same stream down now, and it's about to enter Thermal Reservoir behind me, and I've taken another quick reading on the TDS meter to see if there's much change in the mineral content as it's cascaded down the fell side. What was 5 parts per million at the top is now 6 parts per million down here. So not a big change. Now, I know by the time it gets to my taps, it's a little bit higher than that. We can sometimes see water down as low as about 16 parts per million, often in the mid-20s, sometimes around about 30 parts per million, but a long way away from the kind of 150 parts per million that you'd expect for well-balanced coffee brewing water. And don't forget, this TDS reading is just kind of a ballpark figure. Like I said before, it's what's in there, what those minerals are that's really critically important. But at 20 parts per million, it really doesn't matter what's there. There's clearly not enough minerals. So there's absolutely no point in me tasting my roasted coffee on this water. If I want to decide how well I'm roasting the coffee, I need to taste it on balanced water. If I use soft water, I won't know whether what I'm tasting in the cup is a result of the water or is a result of my coffee roasting. And that's really important to make sure that we produce the best coffee we possibly can. Just take acidity. If I taste acidity in the cup, I want to know it's acidity that's coming from the coffee itself, from the way I've chosen to roast that coffee, and not from the influence of the water it's used to brew with. I have a feeling that soft water can make dark roast taste much more palatable and much milder in character. It happened to us. We were roasting coffee that we thought was kind of light medium roast, tasting it on soft water, and it turns out if you tasted that same coffee on harder water, it tasted much more roasted, much darker. And that's not a place as a roaster that I want to be. For the past 5 or 6 years, we've been remineralising all the water at our roastery, and we taste all of our coffees, both on our mineralised water, but we'll also taste it on soft water to get a sense of how it's tasting to customers in our region. The basic theory is that if our coffee tastes good on that mid-balanced water, that mid-range water, it's going to taste okay on soft water and also on harder water. And in trying to find a solution at the roastery, we've tried all kinds of things. So in my next video, I'm going to share with you some of the solutions for helping you to deal with the water that you've got. If you've got any thoughts, comments or questions, please feel free to get in touch. It's a beautiful day here in the lakes. I'm going to spend some time enjoying it now, and I hope you also have a fabulous day. Thanks for watching.